How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the PatriotDIY channel. Recently here in the shop, we've been working on building tool holders for our French cleat wall. In the last video, you saw us build a drill charging station, and in today's video, we're going to be building a sanding cabinet. This is going to house all of your hand sanders as well as all of your different sandpapers for different sanding tools. So let's check it out. All right, guys, now there's a few different things I wanted this to be able to do. Obviously, I wanted it to be able to hold all of my palm sanders. I have a few different ones here. I have a corded one that takes 5-inch disc, a cordless 5-inch disc, and one that does the 4-inch squares. I also have a few different sanding blocks like this mouse pad one and this one here, and I just want to make sure I have a spot for those as well. And then of course you need a way to organize all of your sandpaper. So I have some pull-out trays here for all of my sanding discs. I have some storage here for my belt sander as well as for my tabletop belt and spindle sander. Also decided to throw in a little drawer here that I can keep just some random sanding tools and a holder for my belt sander. Now I'm going to get in here and I'm going to show you exactly how we built all of this. I'll also have digital plans that you can download to build one for yourself, so you can find that in the description below. But before we get into all that, guys, if you haven't done it yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. Now let's get to work. I'm going to be using 1/2-inch plywood for most of this project. First thing I'm going to do is go over to the table saw to cut down all my parts. Then over to the miter saw to cut everything to length. I'm going to be joining most of these components together with dadoed grooves, so I need to account for that by making all of our interior components a 1/2 inch longer. Once I've got my main components cut to size, I'm going to make my pull-out trays for those sanding discs, and 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch plywood works great for this. Once I've got all my components cut, I'm going to go ahead and start laying out the spacing between those pull-out trays and prepare to cut grooves for those on the table saw. To do this, I'm setting my blade height to 1/4 inch and using my miter gauge to push this through the table saw and cut those grooves. As you're doing this, it's a good idea to test fit these pieces to make sure they fit in the grooves, but they're not so tight that you can't slide them in and out. And this is what that looks like once you have all those grooves cut. Next, I need to cut all the dados and rabbets into the rest of my parts. So I'm going to switch over to the dado stack and start cutting those grooves where each of our pieces is going to fit together. Since I'm using 1/2 inch plywood for this project, each of these grooves is going to be 1/4 inch deep. I'm also going to be cutting rabbets to accept the back panel and the bottom panel of our assembly. With all that done, I'm ready to start with assembly. So I'm going to lay everything out on the workbench and begin attaching these, starting with the bottom and side panels. I'm going to be using some corner clamps here to make sure I keep everything nice and square as I'm putting this together. Then I can drop in my top shelf, mark the location for the nails, and brad nail it together. Next is the middle divider that's going to create a spot for those sliding trays to fit into. And again, I apply glue to the ends, drop it in place, and brad nail it. And the same thing for that middle shelf between the drawer and where our sanding belts are going to go. Because of the way I assembled this, I can only brad nail on one side, so I'm going to clamp this up while that glue dries. Now that the main body is finished, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over and apply some wood glue and attach the back panel. I'm going to clamp this in place and then fasten it again with brad nails. With the main cabinet complete, I can go ahead and start dropping in those sliding trays. Now I'm going to turn my attention to the sanding belt holders. I'm going to be using dowels to hold this in place. So after I measure and mark out the location for each dowel, I'm going to drill a pilot hole in the center and then go back with a Forstner bit to drill a recess that those dowels can fit into. Then I'm going to apply some wood glue and put the dowels in place. Once they're fitted in there loosely, I'm going to flip around to the back of the cabinet and then countersink and drive a single screw into the back of each dowel to fasten it in place. Now I'm going to find the location of those top dowels by putting my sanding belts in place and measuring to find the exact location for each of those dowels. Then I attach those in the same way I did the others. Now just for a test fit, and everything looks good. Now left enough space here in the top of this to add some additional dowels for storage for my spindle sander. I measure and mark out exactly where all these need to go and attach these just like I did all the rest, with the exception of some of the smaller ones which are just glued in and don't have a screw going into the back. Now it's time to build the drawer for the bottom of our cabinet. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting out those components over at the table saw. Now this drawer is just going to be a simple box glued and brad nailed together with 1/4 inch plywood for the bottom. Nothing fancy, but I think it looks pretty good and it fits perfectly. And last but not least, I'm gonna go ahead and build a holder for my belt sander. This is basically just gonna be a box with an angled front that belt sander can rest on. And I left a little open cubby at the bottom just for some additional storage. Only thing left to do now is add our French cleats on the back and get this thing mounted to the wall. Now it's time to load this bad boy up with all my sanding tools and accessories. All right, guys, that is it for how to build your French cleat sanding cabinet. I hope this video helped you out, guys. I know it's definitely helped me out getting a little more organized here in the shop. Don't forget, guys, I do have plans for how to build this linked in the description below. Obviously, it is customizable if you want to change the spacing between these pull-out trays, or if you're using different size belts or things like that, so you need to change those kind of dimensions. That's very easy to do in the plans. Also, I opted to keep my belt sander holder separate from the main body of the cabinet. That way, if I want it butted right up against it, I can do that, or if I need to move it around, I can do that too. But if you wanted to have yours attached to the cabinet, that's very easy to do as well. Now, for those of you that don't know, videos like this are posting early for channel members. We also have discounts for the plans over there for channel members only. So if you're interested in joining the PatriotDIY crew, you can do that through the link in the description. It just gets you access to some exclusive content, early release videos, discounts, and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you check that out. And as always, I will have links to all the tools that you see here and all the tools we use to build this project linked in the description below. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe, and stay organized.